Hey folks, and welcome to my video on how to get severely reduced rates when hatching Pokemon in Gold, Silver, and Crystal versions of the game. This works on both the original physical cartridge copies made for the Game Boy Color, as well as the newer digital copies released for the 3DS Virtual Game Console. This method, if done correctly, will increase the odds of hatching a shiny Pokemon up from 1 in 8,192 to the crazy high odds, at least in comparison, of 1 in 64. This in and of itself actually makes hunting for most Gen 1 and 2 Pokemon actually kind of practical and reasonable when compared to most other methods that don't require you to hack the game. And what's more, with the release of Pokemon Home, you can actually transfer these shinies to the modern game Sword and Shield with pretty minimal effort. So without further ado, let's get on to the guide. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you've progressed the game to the point that you're at the Lake of Rage. This can vary in time for players, depending on how fast you want to progress or savor the game and all of its little aspects and everything. But this can usually be done in about anywhere from 4 to 6 hours, depending on, like I say, your progress speed. When you get to the Lake of Rage, you want to surf out into the middle of the lake where you will find a Red Gyarados waiting for you. You want to make sure that you've brought sufficient Pokeballs and Pokemon that are strong enough to be able to capture it. One of the better methods to do this is to bring a electric type Pokemon with Thunder Wave so that you can easily paralyze it and then whittle its health down to a reasonable level so that you can catch it easier. When you've caught the Gyarados, you want to make sure that the one that you have is male. If it's female, you will actually have to re-catch it until it is male. And this is because male Pokemon are the only ones to be able to pass their shininess on to other species in the first generation that this was possible. Unfortunately, that means that if you catch a female Gyarados, you will only be able to produce shiny Magikarp. Once you have the male Red Gyarados, you're going to head over to Goldenrod City, and once there, go south to the daycare center. Now you'll have to decide what exactly you want to breed for first, depending on what is able to breed with Gyarados in the first place. In Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal versions, Gyarados belongs to two egg groups. The Dragon Egg group, which contains Arbok, Charizard, Dragonite, and Kingdra, as well as their evolutions, and the Water 2A group, which contains Seaking, Lantern, Octillery, and Quillfish. Remember that the Pokemon that you put into the daycare center with the Red Gyarados needs to be female, otherwise the Pokemon won't produce any eggs, and especially won't be shiny eggs of the new Pokemon species. Once you do finally hatch a shiny Pokemon, which congratulations for that, you want to make sure that it is a male as well. Otherwise, you won't be able to continue the chain of hatching more Pokemon in different egg groups. If it's female, unfortunately, that Pokemon will produce eggs only of that certain species that it was hatched from. Now, there is another method to avoid having to do the whole breeding through egg groups method, and that's to use a shiny Ditto as the primary Pokemon for breeding out your shinies. Unfortunately, you either have to be extremely lucky and have run into a shiny Ditto randomly, or you're going to need to use another in-game exploit that involves trading back and forth from red, blue, and yellow versions of the game. This still involves the Red Gyarados, so you're still going to have to use that step, but it's a process that requires another 3DS in order to function properly, and is something that I will cover in a separate video. Despite the now excellent odds of 1 in 64, you're still going to be having to ride your bike around quite a bit in order to hatch all the eggs, and that takes quite a bit of time. However, those odds are much, much, much better than you would get naturally through the game of using two non-shiny Pokemon. Even though at times it might seem like this method still isn't working and you aren't getting the proper odds, trust me, you'll get there eventually. Just persevere, and before long you will be hatching tons and tons of shinies. The great thing too, and probably why most of you guys are actually watching this video in the first place, is that if you have access to Pokemon Bank and Pokemon Home, you can transfer these shinies that you're hatching into Pokemon Sword and Shield versions if they're available in those games. This works even better when coupled with the duplication glitch, which I will showcase in another video. I hope you enjoyed my video explanation on how to get reduced shiny egg rates in Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal versions. And if you did end up liking this video, feel free to like it, subscribe so you know when I'm producing more similar videos. And if you know of anybody who's needing a little bit of help with this, feel free to share it as well. With that, I will see you next time.